Good morning. This is Wednesday, July 1st. Can you believe this? We last met in church on March 8th. We are now in July 1st. Oh my. I don't want to grumble because I've been preaching against it, but I'm grumbling. I want to meet with the Christians. Don't you want to be with God's people? Can't wait for that. We're in chapter 18 of Exodus, and this is a long chapter, 27 verses, having to do with the visit to Moses as he's leading the people, and what a people as we've been learning. A visit by his father-in-law, Jethro. Now, Jethro, the priest of Midian and father-in-law of Moses, heard of everything God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, and how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. After Moses had sent away his wife Zipporah, while he's going through all of that drama with Pharaoh, his wife had been sent back to her dad in Midian, and the two sons that they had together. And now Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, together with Moses' sons and his wife, came to him in the wilderness where he camped near the mountain of God. Jethro had sent word to him, I, your father-in-law, Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and your two sons. I want to read this verse. 11, as he's talking to Moses, and Moses catching him up on everything. But he had heard Jethro. He had heard that, wow, what God has done for you all. Verse 11 says, now I know that the Lord is greater than all the other gods, for he did this to those who had treated Israel arrogantly. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and other sacrifices to God. And they ate together with Aaron, the high priest, in the presence of God. Let's stop there for a second. You see the power of a testimony? How did Jethro know all of this? Why did he offer a sacrifice? Because he had heard what God had done for Israel. But how did God do for Israel what he did for Israel? Through tremendous hardship and strain and tribulations of every kind. All that stuff we've been reading about. God brought them out of it, and the word got to Jethro. And Jethro, when he met Moses with Moses' wife and kids, said, oh, I've heard about your God. Your God is the true God. There's no God like your God. Isn't that what we want our lives to be resplendent with? The glory of God, God's provision. I want to be able to see God do things in my life, which he has, and I want him to continue to do, even through hardship, so I can tell people, I've been there, done that. It hurt, it was hard, but guess what God did? And they go, God did that for you? Oh, now I can believe if God did it for you, you're not special. God can do it for me. That's the power of testimony. Jethro had been won over. He wasn't there, he didn't see it, he just heard about it. Now, the Bible tells us that Jethro began to follow Moses around and saw that Moses was wearing himself out. The people were coming to him all day long. And as he watches it, Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. Then Aaron came to him and said, what are you doing? Moses, verse 15, because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it's brought to me and I decide. And then Aaron answers back, I'm going to paraphrase it. You read the chapter. And Jethro says to him, Moses, this is not good. You're going to kill yourself. In other words, from my opinion, and I'm older than you, plus I'm your father-in-law, this is not wise because you're wearing yourself out. Moses could have said, but I am Moses. I went to Pharaoh. How do you know? No, Moses listened. Because God can use anybody to help you. A child. So Jethro says, this is crazy. What you got to do is find men who are honest and won't take a bribe, good men, and assign them under you. Delegate authority. There you go. Delegate authority. And let them judge all the smaller cases, the little nickel and dime cases. If they get a hard one they can't solve, they can bring it to you. But you just handle the bigger cases. I see how you walk with God. You have a wisdom and a maturity they don't have. But you're going to kill yourself this way. Now, is Moses what he was doing, trying to help the people from morning to night? Was that a good thing or a bad thing? It was a good thing. It was helping people. Was it a wise thing? No. Was it the best thing? No. See, God wants us to not just do the good thing, but the wisest thing, the best thing. I remember God speaking to me, I felt, one day when I was just in the ministry at the Brooklyn Tabernacle, and I was running up and down Atlantic Avenue trying to get stuff printed at a printer and running, doing every kind of errand. And I felt the Lord speak to me and say, what are you doing? What am I doing? I answered in my heart, I'm going and doing this work. I didn't call you to do that. How are you going to preach if you don't spend time with me? If you're not in my word? You can't find anybody else in the church to do these less important duties? Everything's important, but they were less important. I learned a lesson. I was Moses running around, chicken without his head. Notice the humility of Moses. He listened to Jethro. He listened to him. That's wise. I'm going to do that. And Jethro wisely pointed out, you got to get honest men who fear God and hate bribes. You delegate authority to the wrong person, you are in a lot of trouble. I talked to pastors for decades around the country and around the world. And many times they opened their heart and said, you know what? Jim, I heard you said that you try to hire the church first by spirit, then by skill along with spirit. I didn't do that. I just looked for the sharpest pencil in the drawer. It was so sharp, it cut me. See, you got to get honest people that are godly, that are mature, to try to help you if you're going to delegate authority, because they can blow up the whole thing if they're immature and have a selfish, proud spirit or whatever. See, that's the danger of delegating. Who you're delegating to. When I first went into the ministry, I made the stupidest, unwise decisions in the history of the ministry. I could tell you, if I want to tell you a long story, 2 or 3 decisions I made, panicking, not trusting God, not seeking God, just you do this, you do that, and then ba-boom. Bomb explosion. And all my fault. When you delegate, you have to delegate, but you have to get the right people. But notice Jethro's insight. He said in verse 23, let me just read it to you. If you do this and God so commands you, you will be able to stand the strain and all the people will go home satisfied. Isn't that good? If you listen to this and you check it out with God and he gives you a confirmation. Oh, Jethro, you have such wisdom. Always be nervous when people say, God told me what I should tell you, you got to do this. And if you don't, you're fighting God because God told me. No. People who God uses come and say, you know, here's my suggestion. Here's what I want to tell you. Now, you pray about it, you feel peace, but it's my best suggestion. That's the way to try to help somebody. So Moses had this humility to listen to someone who hadn't been doing it as long as he had. And it would bless the people and he wouldn't wear out. So here's my last word for today. Even Christian rubber bands, if you stretch them out, look, you stretch it out, they will break. I know, but it's a Christian rubber band. Yeah, but it'll break. That's why Jesus said to the disciples, come away from the crowds. It's too much, demasiado. Come out in the woods, in the wilderness, and just be with me, and let's rest and go over things. There are seasons in life, and even though you're trying to do good things, you might be trying to do too much. So ask God for wisdom today, because even rubber bands that are Christian can break. It's just the way it is. Your nerves and emotions can go. Trust me, I had a time in my life, if the phone rang, I started to cry. Had like a nervous breakdown. It wasn't God's will. It was a lack of wisdom, stupidity on my part. So don't let your rubber band break. Rest in the Lord. Get that balance. God is sure to help you do it. God bless you today.